So I had this very specific need for a couple trees in the course I'm building that I couldn't find in the Unity store, but I did see some stuff in SpeedTree that looked promising. But of course, we can't use SpeedTree 8, we can't use SpeedTree 9 in our version of Unity. So I decided to dig in and figure out if I could do some backporting. And you can. So I'm going to show you how to do that. There's some good news and there's some bad news about it. The good news is you can work. It looks pretty good. I've been able to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. The bad news is that SpeedTree editor costs 20 bucks a month. I think that should be more like 10. I think that's ridiculous, but it is what it is. So if you want to do this, you need to subscribe to the SpeedTree editor for $20 a month. Now, what you could do is buy a bunch of trees, backport them, and then cancel your subscription. Those trees are still available to you as long as you save them. Another thing is that you technically cannot share any trees. Even if you produce them from scratch in SpeedTree, anything you produce technically cannot be shared. So we can't do like a SpeedTree share on Discord. Whatever you do on your own between your buddies is your problem. Wink, wink. The editor is powerful. It is very flexible. I really like it. 20 bucks a month. Not sure if I like that, but again, you can cancel it. You can get that even cheaper, I think, if you pay by the year, but I'm not doing that. This is not going to be a SpeedTree tutorial. I took one. There's lots of information out there in the web. SpeedTree there's a lot of capabilities. It can be very confusing, but if you buckle down and use it, it's pretty cool. High level task, what we're going to be accomplishing here. I'm going to show you, well, you're going to need to create or edit your SpeedTree. What's really cool is you go into the SpeedTree store, you see something that is maybe you like its leaves, you like the general shape, and then you can download it. You can edit that tree. At least you have something to start with, export it to what you want. And I'll show you what I did here. Again, not a tutorial on the SpeedTree here, just a kind of a tutorial how to get this into Unity 2018 once you have a tree you like. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is you're just going to export your tree as an FBX. You're not going to export it as a .st or a SPM, which is the SpeedTree format, because that will not work in our version of Unity, as you know already. Then you're going to open that FBX in Unity. We're going to make some changes to it in Unity. We're going to import its materials. We're going to adjust the shader, and we're going to do some loading work, and then we should be able to get that to work. We're going to do that. So let's go into SpeedTree. And let me show you first. So this was the tree. Well, let me show you this. These trees that you see, these wispy, they're called Cook pine or Norway pines, and they are all over Kapalua. And if I don't get these right, you're gonna know because they're very unique. They got this wispy kind of semi-transparent look, and from a distance, they almost disappear. So I wanted to make these trees, but there's really nothing like them that I've been able to find for sale. However, inside of SpeedTree, I found this tree. And you're like, well, that doesn't look like it either. No, it doesn't. But those leaves here are very similar to what I found for the Cook pine, which are, if I move around here in the pure ref, you can see these. This is kind of what the leaves look like. And this tree, frankly, has those leaves on it. So that's a big part of the battle. With SpeedTree, you can actually take these and there's textures and you can manipulate them a lot. And I'll show you what I did there. And also just the tall, thin trunk is good for what I want to do. And the height is a little bit more, but you can reduce the height. And it's very easy to change the general shape of a tree to a cone. It's really easy once you understand SpeedTree. So what I did using this as my base is I was able to create this, which is a pretty good replication of that tree I'm looking at. Pretty close actually. I worked on it, I got the LODs right. So the LOD 0, really good count, 5,000. That's really good for LOD 0. And then I did a smaller version of it as well, which leans a little bit because some of these trees are wind blown. I might change the shape of this, but so I got this tree, and again, this is only 3,800, and I think my LOD 1 is like 1,000. All right, so pretty good. I'm not going to be planting these really dense anyway. So what do I need to do now is that I have these trees that I created and I saved them as SPMs, but now I need to get them into Unity. So let's do the first one that I created. I'm only going to show you one because they're exactly the same no matter how you export. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to go to File, Export to Game, and I'm going to browse to my Unity, my Kapalua, it's the name of the course, Unity, my assets folder, which is my project folder where all my assets are. There's the trees directory, which is part of the base project, and I created a new folder in there called Cook. No, not SGT Cook. This is Cook as in Cook Pine Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure down here I've got FBX selected. Don't do ST, don't do ST9, don't do anything else, do FBX. Okay, and you can change the name to whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it as this. You're going to hit save, and now this new screen is going to pop up, and go to choose game preset. We're going to go to Unity, but we're going to change a couple of things here. Now, I might have changed the defaults, and I can't remember what this originally started with, but what you see that I have here, you're going to want, in particular, this swap XY and flip X. You need that. And then I'm also going to change these all to 2K because I do not need 4K textures clogging up my project. Because these, we don't need 4K. So that should be good. And then we're going to hit OK to export this. And that's going to take a second, so I'm going to pause the video. All right, so that completed. Now let's go into Unity. And when you go into Unity, it'll recognize that you put some new files in there. If you get this pop-up about the normals, make sure you click Fix Now, because we need to prep those as normals. And let me get rid of this, which shouldn't have been in there, and show you what we have in our directory now. So we have a bunch of our maps that were exported. We got our FBX, which is this right here. But we need to do a couple things, first of all, with this FBX. First thing is, you'll notice that when things come into Unity, it likes to transform on the x-axis. We'll need to fix that, but you can tell that it's grayed out right now, but just be aware, we're going to see what happens to that in a second. So up here, we're going to go to animation, uncheck import animation, and then let's apply that. And then in materials, we need to extract our materials. And when we do that, we're going to put those materials in the same directory that we have our FBX that we just imported here. So capital, in my case, capital Unity, assets, trees, cook directory. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it materials. So I have a separate spot for them. I can find these materials easily. So select folder. Now those all get exported, and now I have this materials folder, which has my materials, my bark, and my leaves. So let me go back into my cook directory here, and let's look at my FBX now. I've got my materials. I'm going to drag this into my scene, and you can see when I do that, well, it's rotated incorrectly. Well, let's come up here. I now have this, my object in my scene. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to fix the rotation by changing the X to 0. So now my tree is upright. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 0 space because I'm working on a prefab, just best practices. And then I can come over here, highlight it again, and hit F, and now fly to it. And you can see here is my tree that I'm looking at. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to fix this tree up just a tad. I need to get rid of a few things and add a few things. So in the parent directory here, I'm going to get rid of everything but the transform. So I'm going to remove this component. I'm going to remove that component. And now I have nothing left here. Now, if I go into the first LOD, all these LODs are using the same materials that I just extracted. I'm going to change all of these to Arboretum. And you're going to notice when I do that, let me fly a little bit this way, that this tree doesn't look good. It looks a little thin. The leaves are hard to be seen. You might need to tweak some changes to your shaders at this point. But basically for me, the only thing I really have to do is I can come down here and I need to change the alpha cutoff so those leaves are a little bit more prominent, which you can see now they look much better. If I click away, you can see this tree looks much better now. Another thing you're going to want to do is activate your wind. So wind activation. I'm not going to show you guys basically how to tweak the wind settings, but you can tweak those sliders. Go in game mode and you should see some wind if you activate the wind and change those sliders. Right? Actually, you can see it a little bit moving a little bit here now too. The other thing you're going to need to do is over here, you would need to create shapes or colliders, collision object 1, collision object 2. If you don't know how to do that, there are videos. I'm not going to waste the time creating those colliders in here, but you do need to create colliders. There is another video to do that. I'm not going to do it in this case just because I don't want to spend the time or make this video really long. You do need to create collision objects in here under the parent directory, okay? I told you. Next thing, into this parent, we need to add another component here, a LOD group. So if you type in LOD, do LOD group. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take LOD 0, drag it in here, LOD 1, drag it into LOD 1, LOD 2, drag into LOD 2, and then of course you can adjust your LOD distances as well, which is beyond the scope and is basically a setting that you should understand if you're trying to do a more advanced thing like this anyway. So now I've got this object, game object over here. I'm going to make it into a prefab by dragging it back into my tree, my cook directory here. And now I have my prefab. I'm going to delete the one I have in the scene. And maybe I'll come back up here and fly back over here to my course so I can drop in my prefabs, or I'll show you what I'm going to be doing in VS Pro. What happened here? Let me go fly back. Okay. So back on my course here, I have my prefab right here, and let's just give it a test. Yep, looks good. I put it in scene. Now we're going to go to VS Pro. And now I have VS Pro set up. I've got my terrain set up. I have a biome. Again, this is all the setup of VS Pro is in another video. So I'm assuming you have VS Pro set up correctly and it is working. And all I have to do is take that prefab I just created, drag it into my biome and drop it in as a tree. And now I should see that tree here and various different ways, just like planting other of the tree at this point. Let me go down to my persistent, click on that tree, and I should be able to plant my tree, see it in VS Pro, and now I have a backported SpeedTree. Thanks. One note here, I did get you might get some console errors. What I typically do is just clear those, and then what should happen is once you play, those errors should be gone if you've done everything correctly.